What is up? The catch fam. Hope everyone is doing phenomenal tonight. It is here, ladies and gentlemen. Dark ages are officially upon us. The 2021-2022 NFL season came to conclusion Sunday night with the Rams beating the Bengals 23 to 20, Super Bowl 56. So we're going to recap all that good stuff. We're going to talk about what's going on around the league, some very early offseason chatter. We're going to hang out, have some fun, talk some fantasy. You guys know what time it is. You guys know what we do here at the Catch. We got Steven in the building. What is going on, my man?
Nothing much, man. Yeah, it was a fun Super Bowl, and it's the dark ages, I guess. But I don't know. I actually really like this time of the year. I mean, I talked about it on one of my solo streams, but this off-season time period is actually one of the more exciting periods of time for me. I love the team building side of football. I think you do too. I mean, you love Madden, you love being
Sure.
like the GM, and this is that time, right? This is how the Bengals got to the Super Bowl, right? How the Bengals were built. It all started in the offseason. Same with the Rams, right? Just two totally different strategies, and
Sure.
how these teams do it happens now. So, I'm pretty pumped for it. I'm pretty pumped. And we had a good Super Bowl. We had a great playoff, man.
Yeah.
I can't really hate on how this postseason worked out.
No, I mean, what we had the last like 6 games of this season decided by 3 points, right?
It
Or
was
seven
crazy.
points or less.
It was
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah. I thought it was a good Super Bowl overall. I mean, realistically, this was actually a great Super Bowl.
It
Like
was.
it had everything that you wanted for like a timely Super Bowl to remember. But I just found it so strange that every single prediction from the past 2 weeks leading up to it that came true. The only
Yeah.
prediction that I did not see come true that I was hearing was like Joe Mixon would have a big game. I mean, both defenses shut down the run game. Both the Rams and the Bengals run game was essentially non-existent in this game. But you think about it, right? Okay, so here's everything I was hearing. You throw in anything that you weren't hearing in terms of predictions for this game. Matthew Stafford probably gonna have a good game. Probably gonna make a mistake or two. Okay, that happened. Cooper Cup gonna have a great game, be MVP worthy. Obviously, that happened, right? The Rams defensive front, specifically Aaron Donald and Von Miller, are going to have huge games. Maybe not huge games, but impactful games, right? That happened, right? Uh, I will say this as I'm thinking this through: Jalen Ramsey didn't really do much anything, didn't really have too great of a game. I didn't really hear a ton of chatter about Jalen Ramsey, but he did not necessarily live up to expectations, right? On the opposite side of things, in terms of the Bengals, you're hearing Joe Burrow is probably going to be under a lot of pressure, but he's somehow going to make it work. And he absolutely did that. He kept the
Mhm.
Bengals in the game the entire game. I heard a lot of chatter about T. Higgins having a big game. He had a huge game. And then you heard chatter of Ramsey's going to be on Jamar Chase. So Chase going to have probably a good game, but he's going to do so making one or two big explosive plays. That exactly happened. Somehow the Bengals defense is going to hang in there. That happened. And another thing was OBJ was probably going to find the end zone. That happened on the first drive. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, and then really like the deciding factor in the game, the common deciding factor people were talking about was Aaron Donald and the Rams defensive line, which on the final play and the most important play of
Made
the
the play.
game made the play. So it was like,
Yeah.
to me, this just felt like the most orchestrated Super Bowl I've ever like as soon as the Rams were in position for a game winning drive, I like stopped caring. I was like, I know they're gonna score and win. Like
Yeah.
I and don't get me wrong, the Bengals got the ball back
I
and
actually, I actually, man, so I was kind of there too, but how much chatter over the last 2 weeks over Super Bowl kind of 2 week period did we hear these Joe Burrow, Tom Brady comps, right? And
sure,
so
sure.
instantly what comes to my mind is Joe's got two timeouts left, under 2 minutes.
That's
This
fair.
is this is his time to put his hat in the ring as Tom Brady's successor, right?
Sure.
The narrative's all there, right? Um, and I think he was on the way to do that because Evan Money McPherson was going to drill that kick if he got the chance. They'd go to OT. I think Cincy played the better football game that entire day. I think they were the better team. I honestly still think they should have won that Super Bowl. Questionable timing on, again, the refs going for that flag. Not saying that some of those weren't penalties. I'll say the Luke Wilson, probably the biggest call they had, which was on the linebacker Luke Wilson. Uh, I thought that was not a penalty.
A lot of people
And
did. Yeah.
yeah, and they call that one, and I get it. There were times that the Bengals did have some penalties, like T. Higgins when he
I
kind
was about
of
to say,
was
does
over it. But Ramsey did the same thing to T.
sure,
Higgins in the end zone, and that would have been a touchdown, not 3 points, which would have
okay,
won the Bengals the game. So we can go, but that's really to just say the point of like the refs were holding the flag, they were doing the right job by setting the tone that we're going to let these guys play it out on the field.
sure.
And then at the very end of the game, we're going to start throwing. We're going to have 5 penalties on the last drive, and it is mind blowing to me. But just to get to your point that you were saying about how every narrative that we talked about, it was there. Another one that you didn't mention, but we talked about because what our X factors coming into this game were going to be Aaron Donald, the O line. So you mentioned that, and that happened. But also the X factor was which coach is going to choke, right? And we thought about Sean McVay choking, and Sean McVay absolutely choked. He was really bad. He looked baffled in that game, to my mind.
The
Uh, and,
Bengals.
and Stafford choked too, bro. Stafford threw 2 picks. He
Well,
he looked bad in my mind. I thought Joe, he didn't have the stats that Stafford did, but he controlled the ball a lot better than Stafford did.
it was actually it was a pretty unique game in a lot of aspects. Like the Bengals defense actually really stepped up, especially in the second half. I'll give Stafford a little bit of leeway. I think the one interception to Jesse Bates, he knew the situation. He kind of just tossed it up, and then
Yeah,
actually the field positioning it ended up being better than if they were to punt
yeah.
the football. So, like, I'll give him a pass there. Also, just a great play on the football by Jesse Bates, and who was the guy on IR who rushed the field and got them a penalty. That
Oh,
was also
Vernon Hargraves,
yeah,
yeah, the old
yeah,
corner from Florida, dude.
yeah,
What a bum,
yeah.
dude. What a
That was awesome.
bum. Yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot to touch on there. Like, um, I will say also in Stafford's defense, right? Like that final drive, the Rams were down a lot, right? Your OBJ is out, Tyler Higbee's out, Robert Woods is out, and quite frankly, Jeff or Van Jefferson and I can never the other white guy who's not Cooper Cup, they just did not step
yeah.
up. Like they didn't step up at all, and he
Well,
was
he had
giving
that
them
key
targets.
drop that led to the interception to start the second half. And it was funny because that was another narrative right there, right?
Yeah,
The Bengals are going to storm back in the second half and the Rams are going to win in the first half. And the second half starts off and that
three
started
seconds.
beautifully for them. I mean, it was
Yeah,
just like, whoa, holy shit. Right after that amazing halftime show, it was just like Joe Burrow and his Bengals team heard lose herself and they came out and were just balling. And I honestly, if you watch the spread, if you watch the odds that game, like how Vegas had it, it was very rarely in the Bengals favored, right? Like even when the Bengals were up, they still had the Rams like right there. It was either even or the Rams were favored. So it was such a close game to the very end. Um, Definitely a good one. I think it also just kind of spoke to like we've got a lot of promising young teams in the future, promising new directions in the future, right? It's not just going to be the same team every year anymore.
yeah, and I think to that point of Jefferson and Cooper Cup's little brother not stepping up. I will say to the Rams' credit, or more to Stafford, maybe McVay and Cup's credit, like that final drive of the game.
It was
If you
legendary.
if you're the Bengals, who you're putting all your
I
pressure on,
was
it's
pissed.
Cooper
I was
Cup.
pissed. Yeah, I was like, what are you doing,
Put
man?
3 people on Cup,
Yeah.
and it just I mean, some of those passes and catches on that final drive, like, you gotta give them credit. Shout out to our guy, Eli Apple, who's, like, I don't know,
Dude,
he might retire, but
he did get torched, but come on,
but,
man. Like
dude, it's like, yeah, like, he
Cooper Cup
played
and Tyreek Hill in back-to-back weeks.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like, come on.
Yeah. And, he actually yeah, he played pretty bad, but, what are you gonna do, right? You got probably the best receiver in the league this year without a doubt up against you on the final drive of the Super Bowl. It's
Yeah.
like, a beautiful route by Cup, a great throw and catch, but, yeah, it was an interesting game, but it just felt like a very predictable game. But I will say this, the Rams came out early and they got up quick. And you could see a lot of sophomore quarterbacks fold under that
Mhm.
pressure. I mean, this game could have got ugly really quick. This could have been a really boring Super Bowl. And the Bengals took what they were given and they got right back in this game. Joe Burrow hung in there. And, I think it's going to be interesting to see how that helps him evolve as a quarterback in the league. But the other thing I didn't really take into consideration until closer to kickoff with this football game is how well Sean McVay and Zach Taylor know each other's offensive tendencies. And I
Yeah, it
think
comes same cloth.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think we
Zach
saw
comes
that.
from him, I think, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because Zach Taylor is, able to defensively lead his team in this game, and they were down 14-3 pretty quickly in this game. So um, there's a lot of interesting things going on, and I'm happy for a lot of the Rams players. But I just never really felt like the Bengals are going to win this game. I really, really didn't. And even when I put that out on Discord, and I was like, "Yeah, I think the Rams are going to win at like halftime," and then within like 3 seconds, all those things happened for the Bengals. Like, okay, well, but I just really never felt like the Bengals were going to be. I felt like the Rams had the momentum essentially the whole game, but
I
that might just be me.
I think until the very actually no, I mean like, I actually really did think that the Bengals were going to be in this just for how strong my conviction was that this was such a good second half team. And so I really was like in the first half, I was like, if you can make this a 3-point game, this is a win. Like get this to a 3-point game. I have so much more faith in the Bengals than the Rams to make good second half adjustments. And it kind of came to fruition. Everything was lined up. I thought that Zach Taylor made a really stupid decision to put it in Samaje Perine hands.
Yeah,
The two times he did, it was really funny. There was like a bet prop that I had found out about throughout the week that was like Samaje Perine 3 yards rushing. And he couldn't do it. He couldn't get a yard, bro. And I was just like, it's ridiculous. Like,
yeah,
but that was questionable. I'll say this, like, dude, this defensive coordinator for the Bengals, Lou is his first name. I don't know his last name, but this guy like put together a hell of a playbook and like a
yeah,
hell of a strategy to really limit this offense because we can, cry about the fact that oh the Rams were such a disadvantage because OBJ was gone. Like, bro, like to get over it. Like this the Rams roster is like leaps and bounds above better than the Bengals roster. Like they have Hall of Famers like at almost every position. So it's like
sure,
I don't feel bad for them, right? But yeah, I think that people are gonna look at these two teams, and I think this will get to kind of like maybe some of our future discussion or discussion we'll have tonight, but people are going to look at these two teams and say, "Oh, these guys are going to be back. These guys are going to be back."
sure.
And all I'll say is this: there's a ton of rumors out there about Aaron Mcdonald retiring, which is pretty weird to me. I've heard rumors of Sean McVay stepping away,
Yeah,
which is weird. Who knows if OBJ gets signed back, especially after his like third or fourth knee injury.
that just
Um,
complicated.
Cooper Cup had a season, which I get it. Cooper Cup is a beast, right? Also, was that like the shortest Super Bowl MVP speech of all time? Like
Oh, I didn't see it. I didn't see
they
it.
were like, get this shit off, get him off. He is not good for the
He's
limelight.
not a quarterback. Get out of
Yeah,
here.
he's not a quarterback. Get him off. But my point is like that. There's questions in that offense. They've got salary cap issues because they're gonna have a hard time getting everybody back, right? And then at the Bengals, it's like something about this season just seemed kind of like a this is your shot type of thing, right?
Yeah, I
Like,
agree. I agree.
I forget what I was listening to today when they were talking about like Dan Marino makes it like his, second year in the league, never comes back, right? You can't always think that you're gonna be back there. The Bengals have massive improvements they've got to adjust to. The Ravens were super behind the 8 ball this season with injuries. I think they're a better team than the Bengals once
Okay.
Lamar and this whole team gets healthier. Browns are going to be back. Steelers are going to be back. They're one of the leading candidates to get Aaron Rodgers. I just don't think that like this is a shoe in, right?
No, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult to get a ticket to the ship.
So
Absolutely.
what are your thoughts on these two teams in particular? Because I know we're going to talk a little bit about like futures for next year and kind of what we think,
Sure.
broader scope of the NFL. But in terms of these two teams,
No,
who do you like more for next year?
there's a lot to dig in there. Real quick, I'm gonna say what's up to John. What's going on, my dude? Hope you guys are having a blessed evening. Right back at you, and congrats on winning our 2021-2022 NFL Playoff Challenge. I will have a shirt on the way to you this week. So keep a lookout. I got your email and everything, man. It's just been a little crazy around the house, but I am going to get that ordered and on the way to you. Totally agree, Stephen Pirine. Just get a yard, right?
That was
Kyle,
terrible,
yeah.
man.
Kyle, what's going on, my dude? Good to have you in the building. Good to have you guys out here tonight. Appreciate you guys hanging out for a bit. So yeah, from what I've looked into, what I've heard, okay, the Aaron Donald thing is definitely out there. You know, if he does retire, he retires at the top. You have I think, oh gosh, which one of the Sharps is it that's really annoying? And on
Shannon Sharp.
Shannon Sharp came out and said, I think all time you got Lawrence Taylor 1A, you got Aaron Donald 1B. Like
Yeah,
they're
I agree.
yeah, I don't disagree with that necessarily either. And you got to think about it now. I think a common trend that's coming for the NFL that has kind of already started to come with some past players, especially on the defensive side of things, is they don't play as long as they used to. There's so many risks. There's CTE. There's all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And I mean, think about the wear and tear that a guy like Aaron Donald takes, but also think about the amount of fucking money he's already made. Like, you just won a Super Bowl. Like, what else can you really do, right? I
There's a
mean,
lot more opportunities nowadays too for these
yeah,
players to make careers and
they can
and covering the things they love. I mean,
they can do
there's
whatever they
so
want.
much
Yeah,
football business nowadays.
it's true. I mean, they could hop on here and make a channel called The
Ye-
Catch, and they'd instantly be monetized and do whatever they want, right? So, I
Yeah,
mean, it's a great point. So, I when thinking about the Rams going into next year, I think Aaron Donald's a big part of it because he's Aaron Donald, right?
hmm
Obviously, Sean McVay is a huge part of it too, and I didn't hear about that until earlier today, but that's huge. Now, in terms of OBJ, everything I've looked into is that they are going to get a deal done, but
yeah, I think they're going to as well.
I had seen that before the Super Bowl. I don't know if the injury is going to play a factor. And if it does, it does. It's a business. And he's going to struggle to be ready by the start of next season. But I think everything I've heard about the Rams organization, that wide receiver room, him and Matthew Stafford, everyone wants him there. Like
Yeah,
this couldn't have been a better fit. Um, I've always been an OBJ fan. You know, I got a little down on him in the past year or so, but you know I've always been an OBJ fan. So I was happy for him. He still scored, right? He still helped his team win a
he was
Super
on the
Bowl.
way to be MVP. I thought almost
Sure.
like
Yeah, he looked good out there, man.
when he was there, he was eating all the targets
Yeah,
Cooper got at the end. I think
yeah.
OBJ really could have been MVP of the Super Bowl.
Sure. No, I don't think that's necessarily crazy to say. So I think they can get everyone back. If they do, this is definitely a team that can get back to the Super Bowl, but they do kind of remind me of like the Buccaneers last year, right? Where
Yeah.
you have like a super team, you can probably get everyone back and make another run. It's really, really hard these days to get the Super Bowl 2 years in a row. And the other
Mhm.
guy I didn't mention is Von Miller, who played phenomenal for the
Outstanding, yeah.
Rams.
He
Yeah.
played crazy.
And I love me some Von Miller too. I meant to wear my Von Miller Broncos jersey, but I totally forgot. Um, so I think they definitely can get there. But the NFC's, I don't want to say it's loaded, but there's a lot of talent there. I think the AFC is a little bit more challenging. I think the Bengals have a tougher road. Um,
Yeah. I think the NFC is actually a little bit more wide open now,
sure,
especially that I think a lot of people are starting to bake in the idea that
yeah,
A-Rod's leaving and Wilson's leaving, and Kyler might be,
who knows?
he might just be crying somewhere. So you've got a lot of, I think of like upward movement that a team could do, and I think the Rams are already pretty solid, but
And
um,
not to interrupt, but the other thing that we didn't bring up is that the Vikings are hiring the Rams offensive
yeah,
coordinator, Kevin O'Connell, as their head coach. So they're going to lose their offensive coordinator as well, which is very, very impactful to the team
yeah.
overall. So,
Yeah, I mean, we saw how massive it was. It took a really long time for them to get their defense together via the defensive coordinator transition that they had this season. So I think with the offense, they might be a little bit more depth because we know Sean McVay, like that's his fucking baby, right? Is
yeah,
that offense? But I mean, losing a big coordinator, that's a deal. That makes that was what made the Buccaneers' chances, I think, so much greater because they kept literally the coaching staff too. I mean, they kept everything, which was pretty
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Did you hear that Sean McVay on the last play of the game said into his mic, "Aaron Donald's gonna make a play," and he just like completely calm. Like that was the only thing he said to whoever he talks to on his headset.
Yeah,
And that's exactly what happened, which is cool. I thought.
I mean,
There's
but that's a 1A, 1B type of best player ever type of thing. And that's a funny thing about Aaron Donald is his conversation has never been like best player in the league on the defense. It's like best player in the NFL.
Yeah,
Like
and
that's how good he is.
I think we kind of take him for granted too. It's just like you just get used to watching a guy like that, and you almost like don't care.
Yeah, when he flicks
Um,
that engine, he makes the game plays. Like the Bengals did pretty good at like kind of limiting him in the first half, and then the second half he finished with 2 sacks and a ton of hurries and big run stops. It was just like, wow, where'd this come from?
yeah, so it's I don't know, man. It's crazy that the season's over, right? It's
Hmm.
like it really is over. Devonte Adams a year ago, or a little bit over a year ago, tweeted and said Cooper Cup is
I
the
saw
most
that.
underrated receiver in the league, and I think maybe a point you're starting to allude to there in terms of the Rams next season is naturally, these are terms that you love to use. Naturally, you're going to see Cooper Cup have some regression next year.
Yeah,
And you can talk about, a 16 game season, a 15-game season, an 18-game season, or looking at stats with the regular season with 18 games plus playoffs plus Super Bowl. You can compare everything, but at the end of the day, no matter how you pin it, you can either say this was the greatest season of all time by a receiver, or it's top five, or it's top three. Like that.
it's
So,
definitely yeah.
and I mean,
I'd say it's number one.
I would too, and I
Yeah,
think the main argument for me is when you look at the gap between one, two, three, four, and five, what Cooper Cup, I don't have the exact numbers on me right now, but if you look at what he did, like the gap is huge, right?
yeah.
Between like one and five, it's like I don't know if this is going to be a tough one to break. Like when we look at like a way I always evaluated was like looking at Madden records and which one was the hardest to break. And it's like always the receiving. It's like
Yeah,
I never truly knew if anyone was going to get up there. And it was definitely a special year. I think that was the best way for the Super Bowl to end, right? Was Cooper Cup
he
catching that
deserved
final
it.
touchdown, sure, and Aaron Donald making that final play. I
Yeah,
mean that's kind of like the all-encompassing picture of what the Rams did, this season, right? And I think the Rams are a team that not a lot of people like were behind or really like love the hype behind.
I didn't.
Yeah, I know you didn't.
Yeah,
And I was kind of on the hype train throughout the season, and a
I
lot of
just
you
don't. I don't bang with that strategy. Is
Yeah, a
my
lot of
problem.
you guys here at the Catch were like getting on me all season. I kind of always believed in them, right? Um, Although I did think they're going to lose to the Bucks, right? Remember I picked the Bucks, but
Yeah,
um,
he did. He did.
I
Piece
did.
of
You
shit.
guys convinced me. I gave up on them, right? And then even when we did our Super Bowl picks, everyone was like Bengals. I was like, okay, Bengals it is, right? So I kind of went back and forth, but I don't know, man. I'm happy for a lot of players on this team. I mean, I'm very happy for Von Miller getting a second ring after being traded. Very, very happy for Cooper Cup, Matthew Stafford, and Jalen Ramsey. Did
He
I say
got
Eric?
torched, bro. He had the
Oh,
most passing yards against him. I think I think it was Super Bowl history or something. He had 160 receiving yards against
he
him. He got torched
he didn't play great this
postseason. He
no.
was terrible, and I think this. I'm going to talk about this a ton in my mock draft videos and my college videos. Is like if you're a GM, if you are a team investing heavy capital, Jalen Ramsey is like the exact prototype of what you want as a star corner, right?
Yeah.
And what would you rather have, Jalen Ramsey or Aaron Donald?
I think it's got to be AD.
Would you rather have a strong pass rusher to build your defense around or a strong corner? And I think like that's we see it over and over again that with a strong pass rush to limit the quarterback's time with average corners, sometimes that's better. And it's just that's just my personal piece. I love the
Sure.
corner position too, but I mean, even a guy like Jalen can be made looking foolish, bro. Like he looks
Yeah.
foolish at times out there.
Yeah. But Eli Apple kind of evened it out, right? And
Yeah,
I
those are
think
two
like
totally different guys.
no, no, no. I think what everyone's remembering though from the Super Bowl is just the fact that there was one offensive pass interference call that did not get called on Jalen Ramsey. So like, and to be truthful, like on the big Jamar Chase play, the coverage wasn't that bad. It wasn't great. Jamar Chase made a really good play on the football. Um,
He got
and
burnt on the last play of the game too, though, and
say I
yeah,
was like this just reminded me we didn't bring that up. If Joe Burrow, if Aaron Donald does not make that play,
yeah, it's
the
touchdown.
Bengals probably win the Super Bowl because you're absolutely right. Jamar Chase, I totally meant to bring this up. He was wide open, bro.
And
Like there's a
Joe would have thrown that deep on 4th and 1. He would have
oh, of
launched it
course.
deep. Yeah.
That's probably his first look, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a crazy thing. I mean, that adds so much more to what Aaron Donald did on that play, right?
He
Uh,
hammered it.
because literally he probably needed half a second to a second more to get that read and just toss it up there. At least give him a chance, right? Maybe he doesn't score. Maybe someone somehow catches up to him because it's a bad ball. They at least have a chance to kick a field goal, right?
Yeah,
But Aaron Donald he's that guy, you know. Um, it it was a really good Super Bowl, and
it
like
was.
who was it? Collinsworth. Is that who did the commentary?
It
Al
wa
Gore.
yeah, it
Did I
was,
say Al Gore?
Al Gore. It was Chris and, Al Michaels, and it was
Oh,
actually a higher rated Super Bowl than last year,
yeah.
which is pretty
Um,
crazy.
he said at the end of the game that this is one of the best Super Bowls he's ever watched. And
And the
uh,
best drive too.
yeah, when you really think about it, like it was, but I don't know, man. Something just felt like so superficial about it to me. And
Maybe just the last drive.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't
I
know
thought
what
it
it
was a
was.
hell of a game, bro, to be
It was
honest.
no, like I totally agree because I've heard some people out there saying like they didn't really care for it, and I think it had everything you wanted in the Super Bowl. But I think that's maybe what's getting to me is like it just felt too perfect. Like everything just like
Yeah.
lined up perfectly almost to like where it was like a perfect type of Super Bowl where like the last 2 years we didn't necessarily maybe
I
last
mean,
3 years.
last year's Super Bowl was god awful.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then the year before that, well, actually, I think the Niners Chiefs was a really good Super Bowl. I really, but maybe
It
that's
was
the
alright, but it didn't have, like I feel like the thing about this game that was so weird is the Rams have, like, the weakest fan base, the Rams and the Chargers, like, they don't even fill their seats, and the Bengals are a small market team with outside of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, like, this team had, like, no outside of Ohio fan base almost, right? Like,
sure.
it was not very big right there, and these 2 teams are the headliners for the Super Bowl, and it's just like it's still and I think that was why, like, for me personally, I wasn't too invested in, like, either of these teams. I was happy for whoever won, but it was played so competitively that it was, like, perfect. But I do wanna ask you something
Mhm.
real quick, because did you see what, Richard Sherman said about
Yeah,
Matthew Stafford?
I did.
So I don't have that like in front of me right now, but it was basically the gist of like Matt Stafford has done nothing in his career to be a Hall of Famer other than
Yeah,
be in a pass happy era. And he broke down like the stats, like he's got one Pro Bowl, he's got no all pros, nothing other than being in a pass happy era and winning it as part of this Rams team. And you could make a real argument that if anything, what he did kind of did a disservice to them in the Super Bowl. I get it. He also did. He led the great comeback drive at the end, and he was competent, right? I don't think Jared Goff would have won them that game, right? Which matters all the difference. But I think there was a lot of other quarterbacks that could have done the same thing.
yeah. Listen, that was like one of the biggest responses I was seeing. Like I'm getting a lot more NFL information from Reddit, which I really didn't realize had such a good thread with like all these deep dives and like postings of what players are saying and things. And like after the game, that was like the biggest thing. It's like people are like, Matthew Stafford is not a Hall of Famer. And I was like,
Yeah.
I listen, I think the one thing that I saw someone phrase it as is there's a difference between he should be inducted in the Hall of Fame and he will be inducted into the Hall of Fame, right? And in my mind, there's no doubt that he'll be a Hall of Famer, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And I think in that Richard Sherman tweet, he also brought up Matt Ryan, right? Like if Matt Ryan had, think about it, if Matt Ryan had won the Super Bowl against the Patriots, is he a Hall of Famer? Because right now, most people would say,
He should be. If we're
right,
going off of Matt Stafford, but
sure,
Matt
if we're going
Stafford's
to the
always been
stats,
more of a sweetheart for fans.
sure, yeah. Listen, I don't necessarily disagree with everything that Richard Sherman's trying to make it like the point, and then there's a lot of people coming out and saying that Stafford should not be a Hall of Famer. I get what they're saying in a sense of it's a much different league now for the quarterbacks. Like maybe over the past 20 years in comparison to like 70s, 80s, 90s, or maybe some of the early 2000s, especially in recent memory, right? Look at the last 5 to 8 years, protecting the quarterback in the pass happy league has really, really evolved, right? So I can get what they're saying to where the standard in terms of statistics needs to be changed, right? Needs to be a little bit more difficult when we're looking at that. But at the same time, I think Matthew Stafford's one of the best regular season quarterbacks of all time. He's just been on an awful team. And don't get me
But
wrong, like
how can you be that?
sure, sure. Like, and for me, I guess the point I'm making, maybe I should rephrase it. He's statistically one of the best regular season quarterbacks of all time. And for me, that's enough, especially because he's put the Super Bowl on top of it, right? Like I would be fine with Matthew Stafford getting into the Hall of Fame eventually if he never won the Super Bowl on Sunday, right? Just based off his stats. But I'm a stat guy, you know. If stats
But
don't
let's
do
say
it,
this. Let's say this.
sure,
And again, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I'm trying to think about guys that played during his era with Detroit that
Matt
were
Ryan's
on
like the
bad
perfect
teams.
example.
Matt Ryan's perfect, but I think you could make an argument that they were better, even though I don't know if you can really say that because Stafford had Megatron, Ryan had Julio Jones, obviously, um, but Andy Dalton. I'm pretty
Philip
sure Andy
Rivers,
Dalton and
Philip Rivers,
Philip
yeah,
Rivers. I thought those Chargers teams were pretty good. I mean, he had some good guys around him. But Andy Dalton on the Bengals, I feel like he had more season wins with the Bengals than Stafford did with Detroit. I don't know again off the top of my head, but I just feel that way. Um, yeah, I'm sure I could bring up some other guys that just might be kind of in that same class, and then if they got moved, who knows? Maybe it's a different story. I mean, Kirk Cousins, I'd be interested to see what his numbers would say as opposed to that, right?
sure,
With both the Redskins and then with the Vikings. Um, and you could say Andrew Luck was on a dog shit Colts team, and he had way better numbers and led that team to more wins.
yeah.
Deshaun Watson, again, like a better team or a worse team and better wins, right? So I think that to be a Hall of Famer, we use that word way too loosely in our era.
Yeah.
Like our
It's
generation, like uses that word so fucking loosely in
yeah.
basketball and football. It's just like, oh yeah, he's a Hall of Famer because he goes out and scores 30 in a game in basketball, or he goes up and throws up a shit ton
Well,
of touchdowns.
think about it from this perspective, right? If Joe Burrow and the Bengals won the Super Bowl Sunday, for the
He'd be a
rest
Hall
of
of Famer, right?
for the rest of Joe Burrow's
Yeah.
career, people would be saying future Hall of Fame quarterback Joe Burrow, no
Like
matter what he did.
Patrick
Yeah,
Mahomes isn't a Hall of Famer yet, really. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
he has built himself kind of a
He
I guess
hasn't
he
done
actually has won a shit ton of, like, conference
he
championships
has done
and
some crazy things in the playoffs, but he's only
yeah,
won one
he's
Super
a
Bowl.
different kinda guy.
Like he's no different than like what Aaron Rodgers has done. He's Aaron Rodgers has only won one Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like I mean, there's a lot of discussion there, and I think what people get upset about is the quarterback position is so easily like keyed into so many things. Like they are automatically MVP guy. Most of the time they're the Super Bowl MVP candidate. They're
And he
the
didn't even
first.
win it this year, man, bro. He didn't
Yeah,
even win the
Well,
Super Bowl MVP, and
sure.
didn't he lead the league in interceptions or was, like,
He
right
did.
up there?
He did
Like,
17.
dude, those are, like, 2 things you just cannot
Yeah.
do.
Well, I mean, there's a
Like,
lot of
how do you not win
discussion.
MVP? How do you not
Sure.
win MVP?
He threw the two interceptions, hurt him. If he hadn't, if the interceptions weren't on the mark for the night, I think they would have given it to Stafford. But at the same time, don't the fan? I mean, everyone gets to vote on that, right? So,
I
um,
don't I don't
yeah,
know. We can't vote on that shit. I think it's
Super Bowl MVP. Yeah,
you can?
yeah, it's decided by fans. Yeah. Um, So yeah, there's a lot of discussion to have there. Like I know we've always like one of our first ideas for the channel was to have this like really in-depth quarterback conversation about like all-time players and really like base it around Aaron Rodgers because like I think not to get too much into it, but like in the all-time rankings, I don't have Aaron Rodgers too incredibly high. Although he's had a great career and he's right behind Peyton Manning most MVPs ever. But
Well, yeah,
um
since we originated that idea, he's won 2 MVPs.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Um Matthew,
but he
speaking
still hasn't done the Super Bowl thing.
Speaking of 18 game seasons, Matthew Stafford is the only quarterback in NFL history to throw for 6,000 yards, 50 touchdowns, and win a Super Bowl in a full season, including the playoffs and 18 games. So it is a pretty damn good season. Like,
Yeah.
yes, he led the league in interceptions, but he was also one of the top touchdown throwers, and that reminds me of like a Brett Favre. Like, don't get me wrong, like this is one season out of his career, but Brett Favre threw a lot of touchdowns. He threw a lot of interceptions, and people gave him a pass for throwing interceptions because in order to throw a lot of touchdowns, you got to throw a lot of interceptions. Like it's different when it's Jameis Winston and you're just like slinging every ball up there and you're throwing 33 interceptions. Maybe that's not a like the best comparison. You know what I'm saying? But uh, I think you give him a little bit of a pass because he was one of the touchdown leaders in terms of passing touchdowns this season too. But yeah, there's a lot of discussion to be had in terms of quarterbacks, Hall of Fame rankings, how we should determine them. Um, and I think that there's a lot of fair points on both sides. Let's see here. Jerry, what's going on, my dude? Stephen kind of looks like Tom Cruise in an action movie. He does. Yeah, Mission Impossible for sure. Steven is the fan sweetheart. What's up, Jerry? Good to see you, man. Ronald,
What's up,
what's up,
Jer?
people? What's up, Ron? It's been a minute. It sure has. I like that Steven goes with the come over without being bald. Like it's not just for bald people anymore. You do, Steven. You do. What's
You
going
like this
on,
one?
guys? Yeah.
Oh,
Um, MVP odds for next season, according to Caesars Sportsbooks, we got Patty Mahomes plus 700, A Rod plus 700, Josh Allen plus 900, Joe Burrow plus 12, Justin Herbert plus 14, and Matthew Staff infection plus 15. I don't know.
I like Justin Herbert there.
Yeah, I do too, actually. He was the first guy I looked at. I just saw that and thought I'd bring that up for no reason. Man, there
Well,
was good.
well, no, I think that that's a good kind of talking point. I mean, because it also gets to, I think, a conversation we want to have next too, which is like teams next year, early kind of teams next year. And it's like, in terms of right now, I mean, the quarterback, we already see Joe Burrow right up there for MVP odds, right? He's one of the top guys listed there, which is pretty funny, but I think it's pretty deserving. They obviously need to bolster that O line though.
Absolutely.
Dude, that was scary too, bro. We didn't even talk about that. Like, Stafford gets hurt and we're like, "Oh my gosh." I immediately am like, "Oh, dude, this is like live bet glory," right? And then you look at Joe Burrow comes in, he takes a knee injury and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, bro. This is it. This is the end of Joe. Like this is done. 2 years in a row he's
And
getting a knee injury.
he does have an injury that is confirmed, but it's not serious. Sorry.
It's just nuts, bro. It's just like,
Yeah.
holy shit.
Yeah. I just saw this. Just wanted to bring this up too. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but reportedly Van Jefferson's wife went into labor during the
Yeah.
second half of the game, and he had to be
Wasn't
rushed. But
wasn't Odell Beckham?
yeah, he was on
Yeah, a lot of
labor,
babies
labor
born.
watch. Yeah,
And then
dude,
somebody proposed to their wife after winning the Super Bowl too.
what a cooler feeling than winning the Super Bowl and like rushing to hospital and having your
Yeah,
child. Dude, that's like so much adrenaline in the one night.
that's dude. You'd be sleeping so long after that. You'd just be like, I
Oh
mean, all the
gosh,
adrenaline when
no,
it wears off, you would just be like, oh shit.
don't have time to sleep.
Yeah, I
Just
guess you're right. The sleep is gone. Yeah,
Sean
Jerry, let
oh,
us know how the Super Bowl was. I just saw his comments, bro. That's nuts.
Sean McVay is the youngest coach in NFL. He has 5 winning seasons, 4 playoff berths, 3 NFC West titles, 2 conference championships, and 1 Super Bowl ring. It's another
Yeah.
guy's like if you come out on top, retire on top, why not? Okay, sorry. This is all Rams Bengals. Steven was trying to get me to other teams. Listen, I think next year, um, dude, it's so up in the air. Like Tom Brady's gone, supposedly, right? We'll find out. More than likely, I think Brady's not playing next year. But who knows, right?
Next year, I
But
think.
yeah, if he does come back, maybe it'll be the next season. But who knows, right? Maybe Brady will be back. Maybe he saw how much the Bucks are going to have to rebuild in the offseason, how much re-signing,
So
restructuring they're going
bad.
to have to do, and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to do that thing that Gronk did with the Lions." Well, he did a little bit of different thing where he was going to be traded to the Lions. He pretended to be retired, then came back with the Bucks, right? I don't know. Let's say Brady's gone, hypothetically, right? Look, we don't have to worry about Brady's on a team. He can win a Super Bowl. Like it's so up in the air. We've got Josh Allen. We got Patty Mahomes. We got Justin Herbert. We got Lamar Jackson. We got A Rod and Russell Wilson. We got Joe Burrow. We got Matthew Stafford. Like we have a lot of good quarterback play. Got a lot of good teams. Kyler Murray's doing Kyler Murray things. Supposedly he needs to grow up. Cardinals are looking for more maturity out of him. I don't know how that comes into factors. I think personally he'll be with the Cardinals next year, but I do think it's worrisome for their organization moving forward, who never really seems to be able to get it done. You know, like they keep having these seasons, like they had that season with David Johnson. Uh,
They had the Carson
gosh,
Palmer
I was about to
years.
say, yeah, Carson Palmer years. I mean, they almost that season where in 2015 when the Panthers won the Super Bowl, like the Cardinals were stacked that year. They were very, very good. Um, they just never seem to be able to get there, and I don't know if I see this team having that it factor. Like they're a fine fantasy team to pull from.
Hmm.
They're a fine regular season team, but I just don't feel crazy about them. And we still got the Cowboys hanging around, who some
Yeah.
people out there are still really bullish on as well. But I gave up on them because I believed in them this past year. But listen, man, I think it's up there, and you got a lot of young guns trying to cement themselves as future Hall of Famers, right? By going out and winning the Super Bowl. It's an interesting time in the league, man. It's a little bit of a paradigm shift. So I think it's going to be a really exciting year next year.
Yeah, I think before we start going into that next subject, I do think we should like break down this Kyler Murray stuff a little bit. Because I
Okay.
actually think it is like kind of weird now. I mean, I'll say I heard something today that was like really bizarre. Um, I don't know if you heard this point, John, but apparently during halftime, he would just put his headphones in and call his girlfriend and talk to his girlfriend during half times. Like,
Yeah. So
what the hell?
I,
Like, and I
you know,
don't doubt this, like at all. Like at all, I don't doubt this.
Pat McAfee was talking about this, and AJ Hawk and God, is it Vernon Davis, the Colts corner who retired at halftime?
Monte.
Vontae Davis, yeah,
Yeah, that was
he's
weird.
on there a lot with them, and they said, there's two sides of this, right? The one side is you're a quarterback, and you absolutely are you're the most important offensive player on the field, and you should be talking with your teammates and coaches and being a leader. Then the other half of it is they all said that they on teams with superstars that they played with superstars do their thing at halftime sometimes. But it's usually a little bit more split. Like half of halftime, we're gonna game plan, the other half you can relax and take your mental time, whatever that may be, right? Whether it's music or I think talking listen, man, I'm not saying that it's unprofessional. That's not unprofessional or anything. But I do think that there's probably a lot of things like that that happen in moments like halftime in the NFL that we're not aware of as fans. So when there's an off-season story circulating like this, stuff like this is going to come out to make it seem worse. When in reality, some teammates might really hate it, and then some teammates might be like, "Well, in the second half, he's going to ball out, so I don't really care." So I, I
But
think,
when we start
uh,
piecing out all the shit that did happen, right? Like that's one piece, right? The halftime stuff, which I think does matter.
sure.
But then there's also the piece of like him scrubbing his social media of all of his Cardinals teammates, his photos of with the team that spent enormous draft capital to go out and get him and make the center face piece of this franchise. He just said, "Screw you," and you got a guy who looked dejected on this bench during during that game against the Rams, and he's already starting to, like the Cardinals have said, finger point and say it's everybody else's fault when it really isn't. Like, I mean, at a certain point, when you are a star quarterback, you need to take some responsibility. And he seems to me like he's 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and that's always been a thing with Kyler because he's also this baseball phenom. But now I guess I was not as cued into the fact that he's like Phase Clan worthy at video games. I guess he's a really big gamer too, and I'm all cool with that. I mean, you got a ton of football players that do that shit, but I guess my point is like he seems to have a lot of off the field stuff and a lot of like he just can't seem to like when you're a quarterback, the reason why they pay you, the reason why they invest in you the way they do is not just because you're good.
Mhm.
It's because you elevate. And like I don't think Kyler's got that DNA to elevate, right?
Sure.
And I think that's what the Cardinals are saying because this is a tactic from Kyler to try to get a contract extension 2 years ahead of time.
Yeah.
And the Cardinals are like, "Fuck you. We're calling your bluff, bro.
Yeah.
Like you're a shitty teammate, a shitty leader." And also to that too, it's like, you know, it's just mind boggling that Kyler hasn't come out and said anything about this.
He he did make one statement. I don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying, right? Sorry, I just got started thinking about FaZe Clan. Yeah, I think FaZe really signed him as like a PR stunt because it's like, oh, we got Kyler Murray. Because I could guarantee most of FaZe is much better. He's not bad at gaming, but they're much better than Kyler Murray is. He did come out and make some statement about caring about his teammates and his fan base, something very generic, right? Which his agent probably told him to do. Who knows, right? So
But
from
step up, bro. It's your teammates. Don't
sure,
not
sure,
follow them during the season when they're in the middle of a contract year.
yeah.
Don't do shit like that.
Yeah, and I listen, I think that probably what's happening behind the scenes before he made any moves on social media was, there's probably some discussions, especially after the end of the season, that he didn't like, right? With him probably needing to step up, do this and that. And from what I've heard, is that he feels like the fingers are all being pointed at him when they should be pointed at multiple people, maybe even if they include him, um, which I don't think is untrue. I think there's a lot of problems with this Cardinals team. But at the same time, as like you're saying, the team leader, the person who's supposed to elevate the entire football team, you should be able to take that pressure and take that criticism and run with it and elevate your team, right? So I think it's a situation that probably internally wasn't handled the best, and also by Kyler Murray was not handled the best, right? Because obviously, with the way the internet is, the way social media is these days, if you go out and you make a move like this, everyone is going to notice very quickly, right? And I will say I like the Cardinals' response of deleting all of their pictures except for Kyler Murray, which is like semi childish, not professional, but also pretty funny. Um, so I don't know. I think that this could get kind of ugly, and I think it's
It
the
already
perfect.
has. It already
Sure,
has.
sure. And I think someone intentionally, like this is going to be a story that we're going to have all off season, right? Like all like last year, all off season we had Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, and at the end of the day, who knows? I think more than likely we'll probably see Kyler back with the Cardinals next year, um, and probably the following year. But once it comes time for contract time, there's whether it's the end of this coming year or the following year, if you really can't play it out until then, I think it's probably there's gonna be disagreements, gonna be not a great relationship. But I think at the end of the day, the Cardinals want him there. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying that you have to be more than just talent to play quarterback. I think the Cardinals in today's league recognize that what they have in Kyler Murray from a talent perspective. So it's I don't know. I think that this is one of those stories that we're gonna deal with all off season. And
Well, all right, let me say this. I because I kind of went on Kyler there.
sure.
I think the Cardinals, like what we saw with the Packers, like they handled that horribly, right?
Mhm.
Like Jordan Love. everything they did, the off seasons trying to keep Aaron Rodgers. I think the Cardinals like wanted to say like, here, hold my beer. Like, we're gonna do this even worse. Like, I mean, now you're looking at this situation and it's like Kyler is very unique of a player because he is also, again, a phenom at baseball. Now, baseball is also in, I guess, like some sort of issue right now where the season might not even start, right? But could you see a scenario play out where he takes a very comparable deal to what he's getting in the NFL and just playing baseball this season and saying, "Hey, screw you, Arizona"? Like,
I don't
could
know
you
if
see that if
it'll.
because do what they did was a not just a remark of like using him as a scapegoat, they defamed his character in a big spotlight and turned his teammates against him.
Yeah, I think ultimately, if you're trying to get the most money out of either major sports league, if
Baseball.
you're no, I think your bet Kyler's best chances with football, in my opinion, long term with football. Um, like if he went to
Baseball got those
baseball,
mega deals.
yeah, but I mean,
I mean,
Kyler Murray's
he's not that good, I
he's
guess.
not, Mike Trout, right? Like
Yeah.
those mega deals exist, but he's not Bryce Harper. Like he could play baseball in the MLB, but in terms of him getting a mega contract, he has a much better chance of doing it in the NFL. So I don't like. I know a lot of people bring it up. Well, what if he decides to go play baseball? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
But he could is my point. Like, that's
Sure.
just like
Okay. I don't disagree with that. Yeah.
if you were to say, like, all right, so Deshaun Watson has sat and will probably continue to sit on his contract until the Texans say peace out. But with Kyler, he can sit and still make money elsewhere
Sure.
at whatever level in baseball he's at. So it's like, I don't know, man. I just think that this is a bad start to future contract negotiations. And we're also seeing an unprecedented time period where these quarterbacks, if they're unhappy in their situation, they just come out and say it. Like what
Yeah.
Kyler did
It's
was on purpose.
right. And I mean, I think that's not just the quarterback position, but it's really it's a shift to where players now, if they're unhappy, they voice it and they can find a way out,
Yeah.
no matter how ugly it has to get. So, I mean, think about kind of like OBJ, right, with the Browns. Like he was like, "Fuck you guys!" Like LeBron, I'm
He
gonna
got
have
his dad.
LeBron.
He got
Yeah,
his dad.
LeBron James and my dad are gonna tweet, and you're gonna trade me, right? And it
Yeah.
worked out for him. So, and then everyone kind of forgot about him being a bad guy in the middle of the season. So I do think that it's an interesting time. 10 years ago, you wouldn't be able to do that, right? And you see it, obviously, you're going to be more privy to this, but in basketball, it obviously happens a lot too. But
Yeah.
let me hop in here and get a couple comments,
Yeah.
guys. Mr. Matt J. Kim is in the building. What's going on, bro? Long time no chat. Good to have you here. John, I never has talked about the line of the Bengals. I don't know how much Burrow can take moving forward. They're going to kill the poor guy if they don't get a line. Yeah, he was sacked, including the playoffs and Super Bowl. He was sacked 70 times this season. I don't disagree. Hopefully, he doesn't turn into the next Andrew Luck. Ron, when I got destroyed in the playoff challenge. Let's see. The QB is talking strategy all game. Sure. They have to update the rest of the team, not the QB. Sure. Doesn't sound weird to me. Sounds exactly like Wentz and McNabb. Foles wasn't like that. Foles was a good teammate. Shout out to Nick Foles. Let's see here. I'm also sure that he got sick of people saying he is done and shit when he was just banged up with banged up weapons. It's a good point. You can do a lot worse than Kyler, so he is just being like, "Oh yeah, you don't want me. Let's see what that feels like." I have zero issue with what he did. He is under contract. He can't just leave and come back. If he leaves, he can't play for any other NFL team. Also, you'd probably start triple A in baseball. Okay, those are good points too. And yeah, I think like another interesting point, which Steve and I have talked about before, is like there have been several players in the past couple of years in the NFL who've done the same thing that Kyler Murray has done. Which is why to me it's like this is to me it's just one of those like off-season things that I think is kind of purposely being blown up. Like, don't get me wrong, like Kyler put himself in a situation for this to be completely blown up, right? But I think this will be there'll be a new news story on this every single day until
Yeah.
it's resolved or until training camp starts or until regular season starts. Like this will be exactly how we saw the whole Aaron Rodgers thing happen last year, right?
Yeah.
Um, but hey, it's the dark ages. Like we got to have something to talk about, right? Um, Ron said this
Well,
might be exactly what he wants. Sure.
with the dark ages and uncertainty at the quarterback spot, you want to take a look at some of these future odds for next
Yes.
year for the Super Bowls, just to kind of get a look at where we think. Because over the offseason, I guess this will probably be the first offseason where you guys really catch a look at like our division breakdowns, our team breakdowns, all stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah.
Yeah, so we really get into that real nitty gritty. I'm sure we'll do it even more this season. But it just an early take on where we're at, right? So I mean, right now the Rams are plus 1,000, so the third highest odds to win the Super Bowl next year. The Bengals are fifth at plus 1,400, right? So those are pretty good odds right there. The Chiefs and the Bills lead it right now. Chiefs are at plus 700. Bills are at plus 750. I mean, you're looking at bargain discounts. The Arizona Cardinals are behind the Patriots, Broncos, Buccaneers, and Ravens. If Kyler Murray were to come back, Hopkins were to come back, it's in Arizona 2 years in a row. The Super Bowl has been won in a hometown. A little interesting. Chargers
Uh,
are right there too, same odds as the Cardinals. I think those are two nice little futures odds.
it's a dumb question. Do the overs get lower
No,
as the season?
so yeah, so like they'll get lower. So like if you were to say like plus 2,500 now for the Cardinals, when the season starts, it's probably gonna be like plus 2,000 or plus
Okay.
1,500, right? So it'll be less of it like
I
high
just
odds.
I could not bet on a team right now.
No,
It
okay,
really
that's
could.
not the point of the question. My point
No,
is
no,
is
I
like,
know. That's what I'm thinking
yeah,
now.
like another interesting one is like the point of this is like this year's Bengals, right? And you can even say like a this year's Rams because I think there's a couple teams that are already in the rumor mill of like building inorganically to get to the Super Bowl. The team that really comes to mind is the Denver Broncos, right? If they get A-Rod, I think this is a Super Bowl team, right? You've got the Pittsburgh Steelers who are way down there at plus 6,000, and if they were to get A-Rod or Russell Wilson, I think this is a Super Bowl team.
Sure.
So there are a couple guys that I think can fit that Rams mold. And then when you look at on the Bengals side, really hard to do that. Like really hard to try to get a scenario where we can get a this year's Bengals. But one that comes to mind, maybe the Eagles, right? With the
Ooh,
draft capital
you
they
hear that,
have,
Ronald?
yeah, if they really do kind of hit on everything in the draft, they Jalen Hurts takes the step as a passer. Nick Sirianni another year as a coach. I don't mind that. I think that the division is pretty winnable. I think they could take a real turnaround here. So yeah, that's a potential snag for me as a Bengals type of turnaround. But
Okay.
do you have any thoughts to that? Not only the Rams Bengals of next year, but also
I I would not bet on the Rams. I would not.
okay.
And I don't think I bet on the Bengals either.
No, me
Um,
either.
no, I think I don't. Especially like look at the Bucks this past year, right? Like it's just really hard to like you built that super team and it all came together. It's really hard to do that a second year in a row. I would be more willing, like you're saying, to throw $100 on a team like the Chargers or the Eagles, or just a team that you have some faith in for some specific reason, and just forget about it, right, and see if it happens. Um, it's really this year's so up in the air, man. It really is. But what team that I would like to talk about here is the Bills. Like, do the Bills have it, or is their Super Bowl window like completely closing?
I,
Because
th- yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, it's not even closing because I do think they're going to be around here for a long time.
okay,
But I will say this: like for 2 years in a row now, we have seen this Bills team. It's been their year, and they've gotten beat, and it's always seemed like the Chiefs have had their number.
yeah,
Um, and so yeah, maybe in a playoff scenario, they don't have to go through the Chiefs and they can get to the Super Bowl. And I think the Bills going to beat the Rams in the Super Bowl. I think the Bills going to beat the Bengals in the conference championship. So I do think that the Bills are definitely a contender. I mean, number two odds, right? But I also think that there's something of merit to the fact that, like, when you go there 2 years in a row and you lose in epic fashion, like your morale, it's not even like an anger anymore. At a certain point, it's like disappointment, and you can't
Yeah.
give back those guys that went there with you and battled with you. I mean, Tre'Davious White got hurt, who was a big time corner. Who knows if he's going to come back at peak condition? I mean, I think he blew his ACL as a corner. That is like devastating. Um,
Yeah, and
so I
I'm
don't
like,
know.
why can't the Bills be a team to start building inorganically? Like, if you're the Bills, why don't you just sign Chris Godwin? Why don't you just sign two of the best defenders available? Like, why don't you just go all in? Like, you're so close year after year, and it's like the Chiefs aren't even that good of a team. Like,
No, they're
realistically,
not. They're
they're
really
well
not.
coached and they have good quarterback play.
And I
And
don't even know if I can say well coached anymore.
sure,
Like
they,
in the
they
big
they just
time,
they just have they're a
Mahomes.
playoff team. They are a playoff team. They have Mahomes. Sure, no disrespect to Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelsey or really Tyrann
But
Matthew
Kelsey's
or Chris
pretty old
Jones.
now, and like Tyreek Hill is gonna get slower
Eventually,
at
it's got
some
to
point.
wear out, right? Yeah,
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 yeah. And no, and Ronald, I see him saying, "Hey, now be nice to Big Red." My point of that is saying, like, we've seen Andy Reid not necessarily check Patrick Mahomes, right? And it obviously looks worse when it doesn't work out, but I do think Andy Reid at a certain point, it's not just like playing at a playground, it's like the AFC Conference Championship. And you need to say, hey, we need to run the ball a little bit more. We need to not go for it on fourth down all the time. We need to not make silly red zone decisions. We need to make Patrick Mahomes not hold the ball forever. Um, but I'll say this. I'll say this. I really like the chances for the Chargers next year. They've got a fuck ton of cap. They're not losing much free agents. We're going to get into free agency a lot over the offseason, or especially over the next couple weeks. I know I was saying that we should maybe look at that next week too. But the Chargers do have a lot of cap. They've got,
sure.
in my mind, Justin Herbert. I think he's a better quarterback than I would say even I'd say outside of Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. I think it's Herbert right at three.
Okay, okay.
So you've got him. He is a real difference maker. I think Brandon Staley is a good coach. I think a couple things he needed to iron out in his first year, but this defense is loaded with playmakers. The offense is very talented. The O line's coming together. I think the Chargers really have everything you need. I mean, they got screwed
Your
out of
defense
the
sucks.
playoffs, but the defense was bad, right? But it was also like, why are they bad? Like, they're so like maybe if they were to spend up with all the money they have, like they
Yeah,
go
if they
out and
could,
get
yeah,
some guys on that defense
sure,
to complement the superstars that they have. I mean, Derwin James and Bosa, like those are
sure,
huge players.
yeah,
Like those are big time guys there. And then on the
yeah.
offense, you've obviously got Eckler, Allen, Herbert. You've got a lot of good talent there, and they're really not favored at all to win the Super Bowl this year. So that's a good read for me, honestly. I kind of like that.
Yeah, if they have a good draft, which is always hard to say, yeah, if they could go out and build inorganically as well. I mean,
Yeah,
I like a lot of the pieces there. I absolutely agree. You got a veteran receiver. I mean, Mike Williams probably not going to be on this team. They need skill position guys, right? I mean, Austin Eckler. You got Jackson to back him up, but Eckler's hurt on a basically consistent basis. I mean, they had one of the best rookie performances offensively that no one
yeah,
talked about on the offensive line, right? So I think they have a lot of good pieces, and they could be. If we're speculating on a team for next season that maybe not as many people are talking about, I'm absolutely good with the Chargers being up there, especially in terms of them being like who was another team who could have a season like the Bengals, right? But at the same time, the AFC is really hard right now, man.
it is. It is.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
going to get even harder with because I think these big name franchise quarterbacks are wanting to gravitate to the AFC for
Dude,
whatever
and like
reason.
we brought this up the other week. I'm like, I don't know why. Aaron Rodgers would want to go to Denver and play against Herbert and Mahomes, or why he would want to go to Pittsburgh and play against Jackson and Burrow. Like stay in the NFC. If go to the Niners, right?
Yeah.
If I think that's a much better landing spot. And if Russ is going to move around, I think it's the same strategy. Stay in the NFC. And another team that's coming up, pretty frankly, and all are quite consistently. I don't know why I said frankly in all of these offseason talks is your Colts, our Colts, right?
Yeah.
And I've heard reports there too that they are not confident moving forward with Carson Wentz.
Well, Wentz is going to be gone. Yeah, Wentz going.
Yeah, be traded or released before March 19th. That's when his $15 million base salary becomes guaranteed. His future looks bleak. I also
Which
found
makes
this.
me think that they've got like something up their sleeve. Like Jimmy
Yeah,
Garoppolo is kind of the main guy that comes to my mind because
I've
his
heard
name
Rodgers
is
and
already.
Wilson too.
Yeah, I just don't see A-Rod doing that. Like it'd be very
Sure.
weird. If that
Well,
happens, we need to pay Pat McAfee a fat fee.
yeah.
Like,
Well, he doesn't need it, but
well, we got to give it to him.
yeah. Think about it in this sense, though. The year that Brady went to the Bucks, what were all the landing spots people were talking about, right?
49ers were up there.
I don't even remember
Saints
what
were
happened.
up there. It was the
Yeah,
49ers, Saints. Saints were really up there.
and the Colts at a
Raiders.
point. The Colts
Yeah,
had a point.
Colts didn't even explore it. They weren't interested.
I
So
thought they turned him down.
yeah, they did. They pulled their hat out.
Whew.
They said Wentz was better, so we'll trade
You think
a
about it
first
in
round pick.
that sense, though, it's just like I could very easily see A-Rod going to a team that no one's talking about. You know,
I could
uh,
too.
Bossman Fat, what do you guys think of Amari Cooper's trade value? What's going on, Bossman Fat? Hey, I dropped by your stream earlier today. I didn't really have time to get in the chat, but I dropped you a like, man. Watch you play a video game that you looked much better at than I would be. In terms of Amari Cooper, I think he probably has to go to a contending team. And in terms of trade value, I don't think you're getting more than like a fifth or sixth round pick because veteran receivers, veteran running backs, you have, you know, owners, the coaches are worried about injuries, right?
Yeah.
But if you get him on a contending team, I think he can definitely play a great, when healthy, a great role as he did this past year. When he was healthy, he played well. But that's kind of the issue with Amari Cooper.
I mean, I think in this new era, Ronald, shout out to you. You mentioned it, right? This is this era of super teams in the NFL, right? NFL is complementing or copying the NBA to that regard with these last 2 years of super teams. And it's like, I could see Amari Cooper being that exact piece, right? Shit, we're already a Super Bowl contender. Let's go and throw a fourth round draft pick, grab Amari Cooper, get him on our team. And when he's healthy, he's there and he elevates our team. I mean, you look at it, you're the Packers. Fuck it. Here's a fourth. Keep A-Rod with us, right? Let's have A-Rod and Adams and Cooper and a receiver that we maybe draft too. There we go. A-Rod, stay with us, right? I don't know. Maybe you're a Tennessee Titans. You're trying to go out and do that. Or Baltimore Ravens. You're trying to do that. You can kind of go down the list, but I do think Cooper has some trade value. But yeah, you're spot on. I mean, fifth or sixth is real nice unless you're a real contender and you're willing to just say whatever. It's a draft pick. Take it.
Chargers, right?
Yeah, Chargers would be perfect. Can you imagine Cooper's deep ball with Justin Herbert? I mean, that is a perfect offense. And in terms of fantasy outlook too, I mean, like a fantasy trade value for that, like if you'd be willing to go get him, uh, just taking a moment on it, I am not interested in Coops right now unless we know he's paired up with like Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Right. Even actually, I'm not interested in Patrick Mahomes. It would be like a Justin Herbert or something like that because Patrick Mahomes, I don't trust any receivers if it's not Hill.
It's not Hill or Kelsey. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cowboys will be a really interesting team next year. I think most people are sold on the fact that they can't get over that playoff hump, right?
They never will.
Yeah, I don't
never will.
disagree. Wentz is a new Sam Bradford. Teams just keep shoveling him money, not to play there, but he will keep getting chances. It's probably true. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know where he goes, bro. Where does Wentz go? Is his career done?
No.
I've heard terrible things about him as a teammate. Like, I don't think Yeah, I heard he's like I heard he's not a good teammate. I heard that both with the Eagles and the Colts. I'm pretty sure he got his O lineman like like Yeti mugs for like their gift, and it's like, bro, you're a multi millionaire. You see players that are making way less money than you buying O linemen.
Rolexes.
Yeah, I think Jonathan Taylor bought the O line like way nicer gifts, and it's
Yeah.
like he's on a rookie deal.
I
It's
will
like
say, I think in everything I know about Carson Wentz, like a Yeti cup is like really nice to him as a person, you know?
I know. I'm just saying. I'm just
No, I get what
saying.
you're saying. I get what you're saying though. I think Dallas will give him up for anything less than a second. Honestly, I think he's worth about a third because you know exactly who you're getting out of him. I don't disagree that he is probably like if we're looking at equal value, worth a third round pick at least. But I think realistically, at the end of the day, if a player is worth a third round pick in the NFL, the way the negotiation is going to end up, it's going to end up as like a fifth round pick. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, Ronald says he's a super shitty person. Oh, I didn't know this about Carson
Yeah,
Wentz.
bro.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't know. Very cocky, very sensitive to criticism. Sounds like me. So like you can't get him to improve because he can't hear he is doing anything wrong. Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Um, I had to know that. John Edwards. All right, crazy. Here, what do you think about Pollard going before Zeke next year in fantasy? I'll take Zeke first. I will. But I'll say this, you know, Zeke had a good year. I really, when you go back and look at the stats, he had a fine fantasy year, right? I mean, we saw a little bit. I don't. We saw him. We've always seen Zeke have points in the season where he slows down a little bit. So I'm not reading too much into that. But the other aspect we saw this past year is we saw Pollard really start to come on in some games, which we hadn't seen before. So I'll say this much, right? I don't have any issue with Zeke as anywhere in the first 4 rounds, as long as it's not too early in the first, right? I think there are better players to pick over Zeke, right? You got to be realistic. But I'll say this much: I think a strategy that entails picking Pollard later on as a handcuff might present more value overall. But I really, truly, I have no beef with Zeke. I think the first early mock draft I did solo, I put Zeke in the first 2 rounds. He had a fine. I'm a stats guy, right? Steven and I have this different approach where I'm going to look really heavy at last year's stats and really kind of build my data off that. And Steven's going to kind of question the stats and what they could be going in the next year. I don't know if you disagree with that, Steven, but
No, I
I
do.
think that's a
Yeah.
good way to sum it up.
Yeah, it
Honestly,
is. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah,
Um, yeah, and I just think too, like you kind of hit it on the head there. I think you would definitely not draft Pollard before Zeke because then you're overvaluing
sure,
Pollard.
sure.
But Pollard taking him later, you could see more value return as a draft pick than grabbing Zeke if he's going to go in your first or second round, right? Ronald talks about in the third all day. Yeah, bro, if you can get Zeke in the third, like
Yeah,
that's
it's a great value.
amazing, right?
Yeah.
If you can get him late second, that's amazing too. I would take Zeke in some drafts back half of first and feel pretty good about it. But I
You did
think
last
with
week,
yeah, exactly. I just
second
think
round.
when you're looking at when you're looking at fantasy and have PPR now, and when you're looking at what position is really more important, and then you're looking at how Zeke is played and maybe what Zeke is going forward, I'm not too sure you can take Zeke in the first round and say, this is my franchise back. This is my fantasy team's back.
Mhm.
And then say, we're going to build out a receiver because I'm not too confident anymore. Zeke's going to be that guy. Like, you can't draft Zeke in the first and then not take a running back and just hope that Zeke's going to be able to carry that. Like, I wouldn't advise you doing that right now. I don't know if you feel different on that. Like, if you got Zeke in the third and you loaded up at receiver in the first and second, I mean, that's like a perfect way to start your draft.
Yeah, if you can seek in the third round, that's a great value, without a doubt.
Yes,
Right
second round, even too, if you got a stud at receiver or if you get Zeke to be your complement at the running back position. I
now,
mean,
that probably the best if you're going to draft Zeke, probably the best strategy overall is to draft Pollard as well, right? Uh, then
yeah,
you've got all the upside, you've got all the downside. right? It could become frustrating on points. Who do I start, right? But let's say Zeke gets hurt, God forbid, then like you're secure, right? You got the
Yeah.
handcuff. So um, let's see. If Zeke goes down, Pollard could be a top 10 back. Yeah, absolutely, right?
Oh,
Ronald says
100P.
Zeke is the Barkley of this year, but I feel better about Zeke next year than I did Barkley last year. Sure. Barkley is another really interesting back. We've got, I keep bringing this up like mock draft after mock draft. We've got like this whole group of running backs who have been elite for so many years, and it's like they're starting to kind of fade as time goes on. Right? You got Barkley, you got Zeke, Dalvin Cook. I mean, a lot of guys vulnerable to injuries as well, right? You got CMC in there. It's it's Alvin Kamara now. He's got off the field issues, so it's kind of a tough year for the RB1, right? And I think maybe that's part of the reason why I'm shifting a little bit more receiver heavy, tight end early. But maybe it's also because I went so RB heavy this past year and had a bad fantasy season. So I don't know. Do you guys think Brees Hall is valued higher or lower than Najee was based on if he lands in a decent spot?
I think he'll be lower than what Najee was for two reasons. One, I think Najee was on a higher profile Alabama squad, did it on the big stage, and just got a little bit more publicity because I think people that aren't super plugged in with fantasy or plugged in with college football maybe weren't as like hype about Brees as they were Najee. But also, I would say that Najee is a better player than Brees was. Then that's no knock on Brees. I mean, Najee's like as close to like a Le'Veon Bell that we've seen in some time. So, um, and also, I mean, this kind of gets away from your question because you said based on if he lands in a decent spot. But I will say another thing that really made Najee like a lock was he wound up in Pittsburgh, which values the running back position maybe more
Yeah.
than any other team in football. Um, but I will say Brees Hall is right now my RB1 for fantasy out of the rookies. And I think that if he lands in a spot where he's going to see the work he can take, like that workload of a three down back, this guy's going to be a stud for your teams. And I can see him really rise up the boards in your mock drafts.
And your last regular NFL mock drafts, where have you had him going generally?
I feel like he's been more of like that fifth round is what I'm seeing, fifth,
Okay.
sixth round.
He's higher up there. He's not like a first rounder.
No, but again, like we're really early on. Like
Okay.
I feel like not even a whole lot of people are really plugged into or looking at like these college running backs, college players yet, right? I mean, shit, I just found out that in sleeper they even include that in mock drafts, rookies, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, you talk about rookies too, like years prior, like, or so last season. I'm trying to think about the other backs that came out as a rookie. I mean, Javante was a six-round back, and I think he was probably like the second or third best running back that came out of the draft class.
Devontae.
Michael Carter was also he was like a 10th round running back.
That's true.
Not Najee was
Oh,
up
so you're
there.
talking? Are you talking fifth round in terms of fantasy drafts or NFL
Oh,
drafts?
yeah. In terms of the actual NFL draft, I expect Brees Hall to probably go second round, maybe
Okay.
third,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
he
that
will
was my
not be a
question.
first round draft pick.
Okay.
Either will Kenneth Walker from Michigan State, who's really 1A, 1B right now in terms of running back rankings.
That's such a running back name, Kenneth Walker.
Yeah,
Um,
dude, he played at Michigan State too, so he's got that Le'Veon Bell type of kind of profile to him.
by the way, guys, we do have one spot open for our sleeper 2022 fantasy football mock draft tomorrow. So I will go ahead and post the link in the chat one more time. We got one spot open. We are drafting at 8 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow night, which I never confirmed with Steven. So I hope that's good for you, Steven.
What
But
time is
we're
it?
8 p.m.
Yeah, that's good. That's what we did last
All
time.
right. So there we go. Steven's on board. So we got one spot open. Go ahead and hop in. We're having a fun time tomorrow, as we always do.
John,
Uh,
before we close up, I do feel like we got to talk a little bit about the most important thing in the Super Bowl that we didn't talk about.
halftime show.
Bro, that was the sickest halftime show ever, man.
I did enjoy this halftime show quite a bit, but I do think that you and I have a lot of biased
But
biased
I
to
think a
see.
lot of people do like that are in our age group and maybe like 10
Well,
years
we
older.
we we really, I mean, as two white guys growing up in the suburbs,
Dude,
we
this
really
is like
listen to
right.
that type
This
of
is
music.
right in
So
our zone, bro. This is right in our bracket. This is Joe Burrow's
I
like here
think
too.
the context here is that Steven and I were in like second grade, pulling up to school, listening to like Lil Wayne and Birdman, like
Yeah,
and like
stunting like my daddy.
yeah, like music that like we should have not been privy to at all. Like, we listened to Eminem and like Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg for a really long time, and 50
Yeah,
Cent. Like, Steven had a fake 50 Cent chain
bro.
when I
I
first
was
met him.
dog. I still do in my
It's
bedstand.
plastic.
It's on my bed. No, it's not on
So
it, but it's inside.
I think it was no question that we were gonna really enjoy this halftime show, but I do think it was a good halftime show.
Bro, when 50 came up and he was like barely hanging on, bro. He was like, he looked
Yeah,
big, dude. He looked really big.
dude, he's doing like a lot of really good things with his
Hell
career
yeah,
right
he
now.
is. Are you kidding me? He
Yeah,
like
and
owns like that
he was
Empire, the Power Show or whatever.
he was bankrupt like not too long ago, so
So was
he's turned
Kanye,
that around.
bro. So was
Yeah,
Kanye.
yeah, that's true.
All the best go bankrupt,
That's
right?
true. So yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit. I really didn't think Forgot About Dre was gonna get mentioned, although they just kind of clipped the chorus when Eminem came out. There's not really a lot of lyrics in that song they could have performed. Um, I I thought it was a great halftime show. Um, I felt like Kendrick Lamar, like I thought he would be a lot more involved. I felt like he got kind of like brushed under the rug almost,
He
but
did. He did.
I did like Kendrick's part, but it didn't. I don't feel like it was coherent, and that's not really his fault because like Eminem, Dr. Dre, and Snoop Dogg have made music together for like centuries now. So um,
I thought his like he was kind of. I mean, he had the West Coast. I think that was like the big thing was like the West Coast.
yeah. So yeah, I liked it. I enjoyed it, but I think we were a little bit biasy there. But um,
Mary
I
J. Blige was good, man. She
yeah,
did good.
yeah.
I didn't know really any of her music, but I
So
mean,
she's on like a lot of old like Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg
yeah,
tracks. Like she's from that era too. Like she's on like the original Chronic and Second Chronic, everything. So
bro.
um
I gotta tell you the funniest thing in the world, real quick.
okay, okay.
So my dad comes in during the halftime show and he's like dancing. He's like, dude, this music's awesome. You heard this kind of stuff, man? I was like, oh my gosh. And then after the game, he's listening to music, right? And I come out there, he's like, you gotta see this, you gotta see this. I told you I'm into what the young crowd's into. He's like, you ever heard of this guy right here? Kid Rock? And I was like, dude, this guy's not young, bro. Kid Rock is 50 years old, man.
Man, I
But
didn't
I was dying, man. I was
yeah,
dying. I was
that
like,
sounds like your dad for
this is
sure.
classic. This is classic.
Yeah, I think it's probably my favorite Super Bowl halftime show, but I don't really recall the last time there was an artist that performed that I actually like religiously listened to at the Super Bowl halftime show.
But
So
I religiously listen to all of these guys. I mean, I
yeah.
listened to Dr. Dre today,
Yeah,
actually,
I
like all
probably
day.
listen to Dr. Dre and Eminem every day. Like
Yeah,
every like workout wise. Like I have a record by both of them on my wall in front of me. So yeah, they probably will be my favorite Super Bowl. And like here's the thing though, like it wasn't forced. It fit because they were in LA, like
yeah.
it made sense too. So
And
I
Eminem with Matt Stafford, that was a pretty cool crossover right there.
sure, sure,
Detroit locals.
sure.
Um, but
Point.
I they also made a comment about how this was like the first like fully hip hop focused halftime show. And then I was like, wait, but there was Travis Scott last year, but it wasn't. They had also who else
Is he
was with
there?
Travis? Yeah, it was Travis Scott, and
I thought last year was
it was that band I really don't like, Maroon 5. They did it
oh,
together.
that
Yeah.
was a thing.
So this year,
I don't think
I
I
think
don't
we're gonna see a lot of this going forward.
I don't
Is
think
like
Travis Scott will be performing at the Super
no,
Bowl.
that won't happen. But I think we're gonna see. Wow, yeah. Oh, that was a drastic turn.
Yeah,
But
sorry.
yeah.
It
But
is.
I do see like this hit like the right age demographic. I feel like they didn't have ZZ Top out there.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I do have two last statements as we wrap up the end of the stream here. Um, Here, we'll start with this one. So supposedly, Kyler Murray took himself out of the Rams playoff game with about a minute left, and the Cardinals did not like that decision. That
Wait,
report
whoa, he took himself out of that game?
reportedly, that's what has started everything. So we'll put that out
Whoa,
there.
whoa.
Second fact that is really interesting to me: somebody in the McVay family tree has prevented the Bengals from winning in all three of their Super Bowl appearances. John McVay in the two prior Super Bowls, and now grandson Sean McVay in Super
That's a
Bowl
little depressing.
56. So I
All
don't think
things are connected.
the Bengals are big fans of
Of
the
the
McVay
McVays.
family. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tomorrow night we will be on at 8 p.m. Eastern Time sharp. We will be running a 2022 early fantasy mock draft. You guys know what to do. I believe we have a full house now. So that's gonna be a blast. Come out, hang out, get some fantasy conversation going. Get any conversation that we did not finish tonight going as well. But I think we did a pretty good Super Bowl recap and a little bit off-season discussion. And we had a good discussion tonight overall. But you guys know what time it is, man. It's fantasy time, baby. It's off-season time. So yeah, come hang out tomorrow. Have fun. We got a full house for the mock draft. Guys, make sure to hit that like button if you haven't done so already. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you are new to the channel. And we just truly, truly appreciate you guys and all of your support here in the dark ages of the football season that is the off season. So, Stephen, I'll let you wrap it up as well.
Yeah, man. I had a blast tonight. Great Super Bowl, great postseason. Um, we got a ton of fun stuff coming up, man. Free agency, draft, off season. It's just getting so exciting with all these divas. I mean, this is gonna be fun this off season, bro. So
We
yeah,
got a lot of work to do. Yeah.
we got a lot of work to do and a lot of speculating to do. Maybe become the apprentices of Stephen A. Smith.
Ooh,
I'm excited for it. You don't want to become the next Stephen A.
well, I don't want to be his apprentice.
No, me neither.
I'd be
But
scared.
but I will say, no, it was fun tonight. Glad getting to jump on here. Thanks guys for jumping in the chat. And we will catch y'all tomorrow. Do some mock draft action. Let's see where I'm curious to see where Saquon Barkley goes. That is a guy who I'm really curious about that dude, to follow him throughout this, and also interested to see the post Super Bowl hype, how these guys get mocked out, right? Matt Stafford, Joe Burrow, do they get even higher, right? OBJ after the injury, right? I think this was a very attractive guy, and now he's going to be super late, right? So, yeah, ton of stuff. Let's get into it, and thanks for coming out.
Of course. All right, guys. We'll go ahead and wrap it up. Kyle, peace out. Jerry, peace out. Ronald, peace out. Everyone in the chat. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. With that, I'll say thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. And remember, you saw it here on The Catch. And peace.
Peace.